Hey, what's up everybody? Dustin here with Master Passive Income. Now I want to talk to you about the 1% rule when it comes to real estate investing and even the 2% rule. And what I found is that as I use the 1% rule, I am able to save loads of time and analyze deals so much faster. Now I've bought and owned over 30 plus rental properties and I make loads and loads of passive income. That's where I buy a property, I rent it out, and I make $250 per month or more on every single rental property. And if you multiply that by 10 properties, that's $2,500 in passive income every single month if I own these properties and rent them out. Now, what happens is when I use the 1% rule, I'm able to find properties, analyze them, save me loads of time, where I can analyze a property in literally 5 or 10 seconds. Easy to analyze a property and then figure out, should I spend more time on this property? Spend more time. So look at this one property right here. Now this one property with Zillow, it shows us the purchase price, but as you scroll down, you're going to see how much you could rent it for. Now, just for an example, if the property is worth $150,000 and you have the 1% rule, the 1% rule is going to say, can I rent it for $1,500 or more every single month? Now, if you can't rent it for $1,500 or more every single month, then it doesn't meet that 1% rule. Now, the 2% rule is very similar, and I'll get into the 2% rule and how the 1% rule works in just a second. But what I want to do is I want to give you a free course on how to invest in real estate rental properties, how to find properties, how to analyze the deals, even much more so than the 1% rule, how to do it even further where you know for certain you're going to be making $250 or more every single month in passive income. See, I don't pay my property taxes. I don't pay my insurance. I don't pay my property manager. I don't pay I don't pay anything personally. My tenants pay all those bills because their rents minus the expenses of everything I just talked about, the rents right in there, that is the profit that I make, and that's $250 or more. And I want to give you a free course how to do that. In the link below, go to masterpassiveincome.com/free course, and that'll be in the description. I want you to click on that link, and I want to give you that free course to get you started to learn how to quit your job. Now, when I was 37 years old, I quit my job because I had over $10,000 a month coming in from my rental properties, and I will never work a job again. Now, with the 1% rule, it is not a rule that says, hey, it meets the 1%, go ahead and buy it. Absolutely not. What it is, it's a way for us to analyze a deal in 5 to 10 seconds to see if we should analyze it even further, if we should do more due diligence, if we should spend more time analyzing those numbers. And the reason why we need to analyze the numbers even more, because we might not be buying the right property. Let's say you find a property and you realize that it hits the 1% rule, but you buy it and there's more property taxes than what you assumed that there were, or there's extra taxes, which we'll just get into in just a second when the problems with the 1% rule. But as you analyze, as you do your due diligence, you're going to find out how much the expenses are, like how much your property taxes are going to be, how much your property management, how much your insurance is going to be. All those expenses, you're going to account for those before you buy the property. So that 1% rule, easy numbers, again, $100,000 you're going to buy the property for. It better rent for $1,000 or more. Now, I know some people might be saying, oh my goodness, how do I find a property that I can rent for $1,000 and I only pay $100,000 for it? I live in California and prices are $200,000 or $300,000 and it's only renting for $1,200. Well, you're absolutely right. It's really hard to rent in those areas, but I invest all over the country. I have all my students who invest all over the country as well. In fact, just yesterday, I had a student close on a property that is making them $383 or something like that every single month, close to $400 in passive income because they bought in another area of the country that they don't even live in. And I showed them how to do it from step by step, what you do in order to make sure that you have a business that has properties in that makes you money every single month. Now, what you want to do, if you're saying, I can't find properties in my area, what you want to do is you want to look outside your area, and using Zillow, like this image here, if you use Zillow just like this, finding properties, looking through all these different areas of the country, you're going to be able to find properties like this so that you can make your business in these different areas of the country. Now, the 1% rule, like I said, is 1% of the purchase price per month in rent that you need to make sure you get for it. And the 2% rule is very similar to the 1% rule. Basically, you buy the property for $100,000, and it says the 2% rule is you should rent it out for $2,000 if you're going to make money. Well, I found that is a very, very high mark to hit. I've rarely seen any property, like so let's say I buy it for $50,000 and it rents for $1,000. I have, in fact, close to Cleveland, I bought a property, I think it was for $45,000 and it rented for $1,000, or I still own it. It rents for $1,000, which is fantastic. But there's some downside to the 1% rule and the 2% rule. Now, I kind of disregard the 2% rule because I found it's not realistic and it's way overshooting. We as investors want to find properties that make us $250 or more every single month in passive income. If we do that, we're going to have money we're going to be making money every single time, every single month. And so if you shoot for only $100 a month, well, the downside is after a year of profits, 12 months, that's only be $1,200 in profit that goes in your pocket. And you're not going to be able to feed your family on $1,200 if the place isn't rented for a month. Or if you have a furnace go out and it's $1,500 expense to get that furnace fixed, that's $300 extra coming out of your pocket. If you shoot for just $100, it's not enough. I suggest, and I tell all my students, and we all get at least $250 or more every single month in passive income. And so the 2% rule is just a lot overshooting. I have gotten it in the past, but there are downsides to the 1% rule and the 2% rule, which is what I want to get into now. The 2% rule and the 1% rule, the problem with these are your expenses can be drastically different in certain areas of the country. I'll give you a huge example. So I first started investing in Houston. So I was in California when I started investing. I bought in Ohio first, then I branched out to Texas and Arizona. But my first property that I bought in Houston, Texas, I calculated all the expenses. Everything was looking fantastic. And what I decided to do was buy the property because I knew all the expenses. But I had no clue that there were two different types of property taxes. Number one, there was the county tax. Oh my goodness, that county tax was great. It was only $1,300 a year. Then after I bought the property, I get a tax bill from the city. It's basically for the schools. It was like a $2,200 yearly tax bill for the schools in the area of my property. So that was $2,200 extra coming out of my pocket. Talk about oh my goodness, what just happened? If I was only making $100 a month from that one property, I would literally be losing money. And so if you do the 1% rule, you're not accounting for any, you don't account for every bit of the taxes, then you're going to be in trouble. Give you an example. The reason why the rental rates are higher in Houston is because there are more taxes. So as a business, normal economics, basically, I have something for rent, but I have my certain expenses that I need to account for. And so I need to charge a higher rent because my expenses are higher. If your taxes are higher than normal, let's say you thought it was $1,300, but it turns out it's $3,600, then you're going to have to charge more for rent because you have to make up for that difference. That's why rents are higher in certain areas, and that's why the 1% rule can get you in trouble. Same thing with insurance. Another example from that Houston property, I found out that my insurance was $2,000 a month. Sorry, $2,000 a year from that one property that I had to account for. I was budgeting $1,000. Well, it turns out it was $1,000 more than that, and I found that out before I bought the property. But in the 1% rule, with that taxes and the insurance, if I didn't have those accounted for, if I didn't do my due diligence, I'd be completely losing my shirt because of those added expenses. And the last big thing that you need to worry about with the 1% rule is, along with the expenses, is if you get an interest and if you get a mortgage on a property and your interest is higher than you probably thought you were going to get, let's say you thought you were going to get 3%, but you get to 4.5% or maybe 5% just because your credit or something like that, then your mortgage payments are higher, which increases your expenses. Now, if it increases your expenses, then that eats up your profit. And so those are some problems that can come with the 1% rule. Now, again, the 1% rule and the 2% rule is a quick 5-second way to judge a property. Should I do more investigation? Should I do more due diligence? Should I actually analyze the numbers on this property? I'll give you an example, like in California or New York City. They're going to, $500,000 for a house, but you could rent it for $2,000. Well, absolutely does not get anywhere near the 1% rule, let alone the 2% rule, so you're not going to make money. Now, there might be ways where you can maybe rent out per room and all that sort of stuff, or Airbnb, which could work out fine, but we're talking about how the 1% rule works. Now, all my students, we invest in, say, like the Midwest, down to the Southeast, like the Carolinas and Florida. They have some really good properties. So you might be thinking right now, man, prices are really high. How do I buy a property and make money? Well, you don't have to buy right where you live. You can invest in places like Indiana, Tennessee, the Carolinas, up to Minnesota and Ohio. There's so many great places that have lower priced homes and higher rents, and you can make a lot of money. So again, I want you to get that free course. Go to masterpassiveincome.com/free course, and it's in the link below. I want to give you that free course so you can get started investing in real estate. So I hope this has helped you with the 1% rule so you can analyze properties really, really quickly, going through Zillow and saying, okay, this can rent for $1,000, but they're asking $200,000. It doesn't meet the 1% rule. It's going to be a waste of my time to analyze it even further. Let me jump into a new area or a new property. I even use the 1% rule to look at new areas of the country to invest, another city or another state. I see if it fits the 1% rule. If a lot of properties fit the 1% rule, it might be a great place for me to start investing. All right, guys, you've been fantastic. Again, Dustin Heiner here with Master Passive Income. We'll see you soon.